Let's talk about the revenue model, I call it the demand model as well in this financial model. What you're really showing here is we're stepping through a logical sequence of who your customers are. So in the very top part of this model, we show the different customer segments. So it could be sailboat owners, fishing boat owners, whoever they are. So we're saying this is a customer segment, a customer group based upon a certain demographic profile, psychographic profile, a certain ability to reach them somehow by, these are all the people that belong to a certain association, something like that. So in the first group, you've got the number of them that are there. Now this number may grow over time, it may stay the same over time, but nevertheless, you're putting in a factual number, a number you've gotten from a credible source to show this is a universe of customers here. Now, we can list different market segments, how many of them are in each segment, and that's really pretty much a good foundation for your financial model to demonstrate these are our number of customers. Now, we've talked about that in the narrative part of the plan, but this is the actual financial model showing you actual numbers. Now, the block underneath that would be, now, this, given the same segments of each of these customers, how many of these customers do we think are going to become our customers? What percentage of we call it market penetration. We think we're going to sell X percent of these people. A 0.5% of all the orthodontists on this list are going to buy this product in year 1. Another 1% is going to buy it in year 2, 3% in year 3, whatever. But in this section, of course, is the part that an investor is going to challenge you on, is your percentages of market penetration, because really you could be hip shooting on this. Now you could say, I'm going to send out a mailing piece to these 800,000 orthodontists, and they're going to spend, 1% of them is going to spend $100. Okay, you could call it. Now, what I also want to say here is, as I said, 1% in that example is you never, ever want to use 1% by saying, well, we go to China, we're going to sell 1% of all the Chinese buy this product. You're dead. Because if you use 1%, because it's so proverbial, it's so often used, it's so overused, that any investor or lender hears you use the word 1% in your numbers, it screams at them that A, you're lazy, because you didn't drill down a little further to see, wait a minute, if I got 1% of this is an unrealistic number of people, or maybe 1% just isn't enough. I mean, on one hand, I don't want 1% of my market share, I want 100% of it. Now, somewhere between 1% and 100% is reality, and it might be 15 to 20%, something like that. That's where I want to go to from here. But just the fact that you say 1% just screams that you didn't think about it much further, because 1% is too easy to yank. It's just too easy. That's the problem. You yank that number out of the air, and it just says you didn't really think about it enough. So avoid 1% like the plague. Okay, so now all that said, here's this table that talks about the market, the percentage penetration of how many of each of these segments each year are you going to actually sell your product to. And this is the part that drives the model, because you're taking the number of actual prospects that are out there from above, how many of them you're actually going to sell to actually become customers. Now you've got a foundation to say, okay, now since those customers bought something from me, what was the price of the product they paid? So now you can say, given the price of the product, what's our first revenue going to be? Because I've heard many people say, and I see this in business plan competitions, it's become a joke, where here's our great pitch, the first year we're going to do $1 million. And I've asked a number of venture capitalists about this. I said, how often does that happen? They say everybody comes in and says, yeah, the first year we're going to do $1 million. How do they arrive at this magical $1 million sales that first year? They have no story, there's no case, there's no getting there from here. So the demand revenue model really helps you start out with how many available customers are there, how many do we think we can realistically reach and sell to, multiply that by our product price, that shows what the revenue is going to be by segment. So what you've done here, rather than saying we're going to have one big customer segment, here's how many we're going to sell, you break it into segments. So because the investor could challenge you and say, well, I disagree with you in this segment, but the rest of the segments I agree with. So you've reduced the amount of rejection or pushback from an investor, or if you just change the number based on what that investor really thinks, if you're talking, if they're close to investing in you, you can dial your plan in by changing that one number. So you've reduced the hip shooting, you've brought the target closer to you, and you're talking about, you're actually showing how much money this business will actually generate at this one place. So this is the high level, how much revenue can this business bring in based on some real facts, some reasonable assumptions, and then the rest is arithmetic, because in your financial model you're putting in assumptions, and once you get the assumptions in, the rest is arithmetic, because it's simply that. How much revenue, what's it cost, what's this thing generate? And from there you can run valuations and all the rest of this stuff. So the demand model is really, really very, very important, especially for all those reasons.